Hello everyone, welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to show you the Intune portal. I'm going to browse around Intune portal and explain um, each sections. So right now I'm in Office 365 portal. I would click on Intune. All right, so I'm in Intune sections here. There's an overview of Intune. You can do a quick start of Intune. The quick start of Intune, you can learn more about it. Um, Getting started with Intune, common ways to use Intune. All this information is very valuable to you if you're new to Intune. Currently, my MDM authority is Intune. There's two ways you can configure Intune. One is the hybrid. The hybrid is the Intune connection between the configuration manager, and the standalone is just without configuration manager. So I'm going to device enrollment, the very first one. So under device enrollment, you can configure Apple enrollment, you can configure Android enrollment, Windows enrollment, terms and condition, enrollment restriction, device categories. All these information here, features here, you can configure within device enrollment. For Apple enrollment, in order for you to manage any Apple devices or any iOS devices, you have to install Apple certificate. So to do that, you would need to click on Apple MDM push certificate here. And here's the instruction that you need to configure. In my case here, it's already configured. I got 211 days before it's expired. So you need to add new certificate once a year. So you would want to create new certificate in Apple and then import it before it's expired. And there's also the bulk enrollment method. You can join Apple programs and get this configured for you. There's the enrollment programs tokens. It's enrollment programs and Apple School Manager. So all these features are available within Apple enrollment. And there's Android enrollment. With Android enrollment, you can configure if you have a corporate Google Play account, you can connect it here. Also, you can configure enrollment profiles. There's a work profiles, there's kiosk and task device enrollments. For Windows enrollment, um, this is where you configure Windows enrollment. You can do this Windows Help for Business. You can configure that here. CNAME validation. You can test your domain registration here. Enter in your DNS, your domain DNS. Enrollment status preview. This is more like for autopilot. So it's currently it's in the preview mode. If you want to play around with it, you can. And there's the deployment profiles. The deployment profiles you can configure it to for autopilot. If you want to do Windows 10 deployment for autopilot, you can configure deployment profiles. You can create a deployment profiles and then deploy it to your computers or user account. Device management, manage Windows autopilot devices. So when you import device is using the CSV file, your device will shows up here. You can watch my other video regarding the autopilot. I shows the whole process of autopilot deployment. The terms and condition, you can configure that here. Currently, I don't have any terms condition configured. Enrollment restrictions, you can create a enrollment restriction here. Default all use device limit, you can configure here. Right now, it's by default is limited to 5. You can configure up to 15 devices. Device categories, you can create device categories. Corporate device identifier. If you want to identify corporate devices, you can create that here by importing like a CSV file, or you can do that, or you can enter it manually. Device enrollment manager, if you want to give a help desk technician access to enroll devices, you can create the group here. And the monitor is just reporting, so it's audit logs and help and support. If you have issues with your Intune tenant, you can read more solution to common problems here. You can open a support request ticket to Microsoft. Device compliance. In this section, you can create a device compliant policy. For example, if you want to create a policy for Android or iOS, you have just create policy. You can watch my video where it takes you to how to configure policy for Android and iOS. So with this policy, you can block um, or you can force the pin numbers, number of pin they can enter. They have to enter in order to enroll the device when they enroll the devices. So notifications, you can create a notification here. Locations. Currently, I don't have any location created. With the location, you can create location based on IP subnets. Just say if I want to create location for LA, you would name your location LA and then you would enter all the IP subnets for LA, Los Angeles. And monitoring, it's more like reporting. You can see device compliant. Currently I have one device that is compliant. Device without compliance. There's devices, but they're not compliant. There's a setting compliance. Policy compliance. That's the policy that you create up here. Audit logs, Windows Health attestation, threat agent status, and under setup, there's compliant policy settings. You can enable mark device with no compliant policy assigned as compliant or not compliant. So you can configure that here. Windows Defend ATP. It's currently, if you have any subscription for Windows Defender, that's where you configure that here. Mobile Threat Defense. You have to add a connector, MTD connector. So click on add and take you through the process of adding it. Partner device management. Yeah, if you have some kind of third-party device management, like Apple for jam and stuff, you can configure that here. And help and support, if you have issues, you can open a support ticket here. Click X. Device configuration. You can, under profiles, you can create a Wi-Fi profiles and deploy to your devices, your corporate devices. Wi-Fi profiles, email profiles, you can configure all that here. And as a PowerShell script, you can create as well. eSIM cellular profile, this is in preview. I have not used it. I'm not sure what it does. And under monitoring, it's just reporting an assignment status, audit logs, device with restricted apps. And under setup, you can create a setup certificate authority. If you have semantic or any other third-party certificate, you can configure it and deploy it to your mobile devices. Telecom expenses. You can create a policy to enable telecom expenses. If devices exceed usage quota, you can enable it or disable it. Help and support again. That's device configuration. Under devices is all the devices that are currently enrolled in your Intune tenants. If you click on all devices, it will show us all the devices and all the Azure AD devices. Any devices that users activate via Office, or if they log in to Office Pro Plus and they activate their license, their devices will show us up here. Device action monitors, setting up. If you have a team viewer, you want to connect to your Intune, you can do that here in order for you to control or remote to the devices using TeamViewer. Device cleanup rules, you can configure device cleanup rule. If devices are dead for more than 90 days, then you can configure that here. If it's dead for more than 90 days, you want to delete them from Intune. So you can configure that here as well. Client apps. Under client app section, you can deploy apps. You can create apps. Here's all the apps that I created. I got Netflix. I got Office 365 for desktop apps. OneNote, Safaris. So you can go and configure apps by click on Add here. App configuration policy. You can configure app configuration. For example, manage browser. You want to configure your browser to default to a certain website when the user launches the browser, or you can configure to block a certain website. App protection policy, it's allowed you to create a policy, for example, in Word, if you want prevent users from downloading document to their local device, to their local devices, you can create a policy only to save data to OneDrive or SharePoint Online. So that's the app policy. Also, you can create a policy from, just say if a user want to copy and paste in their Word document, you can prevent that as well, or prevent a screenshot policy. So you have to create policy for each platform. If I click on Add Policy, you can create one for iOS, Android, and Windows 10. So the app policy, app protection policy require Exchange Online. If you're still using Exchange on-prems, app policy will not work. App selective wipes, you put in a new wipe request to wipe in the app settings. iOS app provision profiles, create that here. Monitor all reportings. You can view the app installation status, app protection policy status, all that's available within Monitor. Setup, you can do iOS VPP tokens, Windows Enterprise Certificate, Semantic Certificate. All these are available for you to create and deploy to your Intune device. Company portal branding, you can create your own branding here. You can even add a website logo, phone number, contact, all this information is available for you to customize. App categories, you can create a different app categories. Manage Google Play. You have to configure the sync between Google Play and Intune. So that's client apps, ebooks. I don't use this at all, so you can configure that all ebooks information here, ebook categories, ebooks install status. Conditional access. You can create conditional access. Just say if you want when a user bring him or her devices and set up corporate email, and if you want to create a policy or conditional access, forcing them to enroll their devices before they can read their emails. So you can create a policy for that. And also you can create a policy for locations. Just say if you want to prevent anybody from China or any other countries from log into your Office 365, you can create that policy here. Exchange Active Sync, you can configure Exchange Active Sync if you have an on-premise connector. You have to configure the connector setup here on your Exchange server. That's the on-prem access Exchange connector. You can configure that here. Users shows all your users. You can do a password reset because user settings. There's a sign in, um, activity, audit logs for each users. Okay, groups pretty similar to users. It has all the same features as users, except the sign in. Roles. These these are Intune roles. Um, Policy and profile manager. There's help desk, school administrator, application manager. You can assign any of these roles to your help desk tech or your desktop tech to give them access to do a certain thing. Scope tags, monitors, all permissions, audit logs, software updates. You can deploy software updates. Currently, there's only options to deploy software update using Windows 10. To Windows 10 and to iOS devices. No software update for Android devices yet. Okay, that's that's about it. And as you can see, there's help, support, and troubleshooting. If you have any issues with your tenant or configuration, I would advise to open a support ticket or check on the form. Thank you for watching and have a good day.